This is BBC4 reminiscing our way through the first night of our massive 60s season, running on weekends through June. Now, from 1966, late night lineup.
Handle me with skill, break my heart but thrill me, do it now or never, nothing lasts forever, that includes the thrill of love. Take me, I'll obey your wishes. I'll not be capricious. You can be ambitious. Bend me to your will, but handle me with skill. Break my heart, but thrill. Let the sky aglow, let the stars swing low, let the world roll over, just thrill me. Do it now or never, nothing lasts forever, except the British weather.
Sai Chin, we will be meeting again later on. You can also see her with Chan Canasta on BBC1 tomorrow evening. Well, tonight, Joan Bakewell talks to James Robertson Justice. And with me now are two people who are as one in the form of bon viveurs, Fanny and Johnny Craddock. Now, the Radio Times billing for Fanny Craddock's programme tomorrow night on BBC1 looks rather like a surrealistic space drama series. It says, Adventurous Cooking, Episode 1, Vegetables. Should be good. In fact, of course, it's a further education programme that if you missed this morning at 10 o'clock, you can see tomorrow night at 10 to 11. And you very kindly offered to whip up a snack for me and Sai Chin, but I suspect an ulterior motive.
Well, actually, there are two, because well, we've got to do something, both of us, that has to be done pretty quickly and in the canteen or something like that, you know, the last bit we're going to do when we leave you. And the other thing is that I've, curiously enough, decided to do this fondue à la Fribourg, and Johnny has decided to give you those very powerful Kirsch chasers with it. But somebody wrote to us to a national newspaper we work for regularly, and said, is it possible to reheat a fondue? And I still don't know.
But we will.
We're going to find out, because we're reheating one that we've already made.
I'd like to go back, if I may, to the days when you were not a professional partnership. You, Fanny, tried for years, I believe, to get on the staff of the Daily Express without any success. Does this mean that journalism was your first love?
No, it wasn't a question of love, it was a question of money. Because I was a struggling novelist. And this was the thing I always liked doing more than anything else. The writing is, well, it's a sort of close thing, really, isn't it, John, between the writing, the gardening, and the cooking.
Yeah.
But I think writing is my first love, and I was, as I say, writing a series of novels, and it's many years since I have. I write nothing like a cookery now. But I am writing my first novel for 15 years. And as far as the Telegraph Express was concerned, it was simply that I wanted to earn more money.
Yeah.
And we both wanted to earn more money. We've both been very broke in the interim period.
I was surprised, in fact, to find that you had written 9 novels under the name Francis Dale.
Part of my grandmother's name.
Yes.
Because Daddy was a famous dramatist and I wouldn't use his name.
What sort of novels were they?
Well, they were very strange psychological ones. I wrote an odd one about the difference between being a medium and a schizophrene, which needed mountains of research, and I went to strange murder trials and wrote curious psychological things altogether. This was my fascination, quirk of the human mind.
Are they still in print?
Oh, yes, I think so, aren't they? Some of them?
Well, some of them are still in the libraries, I believe.
How do you regard them at this distance in time?
At this distance in time, I think, because one always rides over one's previous work, as you do sometimes over your current work, I would like, the themes I would like to rewrite. They fascinated me then, they still fascinate me.
Yes, you had some very good themes there.
Well, Old Orphan Babylon, which was the only bestseller I had in that lot, as you know. Actually, the book that we're writing now, because we're like everything else we're doing together, the novel will be our 81st or 82nd book. I think it's 82nd.
How do you collaborate in the writing? Do you do it, you know, one typewriter each, or
No.
No. I do the sort of facts and figures and research and all that sort of thing, and she does the...
What we call in the family the deathless prose. In the same way that he has more gastronomic honours than I have, more wine honours, and I've got more food ones.
Johnny, you've tended in your television appearances to be one step behind Fanny. Is this deliberate policy, or is it that you're a reluctant television performer?
No, I think it started, really, from a stage gimmick in a play we did in the Arts Theatre some time ago. And then it sort of built up from that, I think, apart from the fact, of course, that Fanny is undoubtedly the better cook. I mean, I only started a few years ago. But it's quite different to our home life, I can assure you. Madam doesn't behave herself.
I'm glad you mentioned home life, because you were once quoted as saying a few more bottles of Vin Ordinaire on the table and there would be a lot more happy marriages. This sort of conjures up a picture of me, in my mind, of two people so incapable that they can't fight. Is that what you meant?
No, it isn't that at all. But if you give people good food and wine, particularly if the two are balanced well, you'll find that they sort of start to flow and they get friendly and that. We tried an experiment once, actually. We had the same bunch of people to 2 nights together, one after the other. And the first time, we gave them of our best, wine and food-wise. And they were all perfectly happy, they were very animated, and they went home all best of friends.
Well, the married couples were flirting a bit under the table,
definitely,
you know, like this.
The following night, we gave them literally filthy food, you see.
Deliberately.
And they got furious, they started squabbling.
They were carping, and wives were chipping husbands
and everything.
Terrible.
It's just the whole difference in the world.
You've got the quote, actually, a little bit
Yes, it's not a
twisted.
question of getting tight or anything like that, it's just that you get mellowed up slightly.
I'm sorry about the quote. What was
Well, there are two, actually. One that I was responsible for is that there's nothing wrong with the love life of the 60% frigids in this country that little knowledge of food and wine wouldn't cure. And the other, which was yours, is that you plagiarized in the first place the meal without wine is the day without sunshine. And you said that wine irons out the creases in our daily lives. We're both frightfully abstemious. But wine, always, in small quantities. May I bring you back to this one moment? I would like to quote a friend of mine. I always get my own way with my husband on trivial things. In the matters of major policy, a girlfriend of mine many years ago said, you know, a mule is capricious in comparison to Craddock. Now, you may take it or leave it, but that is fact. Mark you, 26 years, and I still wouldn't change. What about you?
No, I certainly wouldn't.
I was surprised to learn that you'd written a play. John Osborne created a sort of watershed in modern drama with Look Back in Anger. Where do you place your play?
Well, as a play, as the daughter of a dramatist? Look, you tell me. I'm going to tell you a small story, and you tell me whether I could even be so arrogant as to place that little number. It was a 3-act play with 22 classic dishes cooked within the action of the play, and there were only 2 other people in it except the maid, and that was Ken Evans and his wife, Evangeline Banks Leslie, also they were lifelong friends. And when I tell you that a white-faced stage manager came to us after dress rehearsal, he said, never before in my wildest nightmares have I dreamed of a first act with 375 hand props. And when I tell you that this one stood with me on the stage 3 minutes before the curtain went up, we were both rigid with fear. We realised this frightful thing we'd done. We're a couple of hams. We'd never been on the boards in our lives, and here we were, playing the lead in a play that we'd written, and VIPs and press outside. And I was rigid with fear. I thought he was. He said, darling, would you tell me something? Very conversational. And I said, yes, if I can. What a moment.
I said, can you tell me which is prompt and which is OP? I hadn't the foggiest idea.
Now, this is not a time to criticise one's own work, even to consider it worthy of criticism. It was an enormous rag.
But what I
was
find
great fun.
extraordinary, I mean, I didn't see the play, but I've read lots of notices about it.
Oh, we had some wonderful notices.
Yeah, I know. I can't help wondering what the plot was about, because as far as I could see, you were cooking the whole time.
No, no, we played, really, we wrote about ourselves, which is what you always do with first books, first plays, you know? In that, when we have the young in the house, we never get a moment's peace, we're always feeding them. So we planted...
Yes, they're always just in round about mealtime.
And so, oh, splendid, you see? And so we put a couple upstairs who did this to us. And in the first act, we got so fed up. You started by cooking breakfast, we never got any, making croissants, they said, oh, wonderful, and ate them, and then asked somebody else in. So we sent them off to a little restaurant in northern France, run by a French woman and her Cockney husband. You see, they'd married her after the Second World War. And so, of course, they walk in, it's us again, you see. And then we play to them there. And then in the third act, of course, we are having a peaceful weekend without them there. They turn up the next day, and they're bringing this French couple to dinner that night. So, of course, the George and Margaret Inn.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a plot even, it was a slender vehicle.
Yeah.
If we wrote a play, we would say, we wrote a play and poured ourselves. We wrote a bit of jazz, sticking to the convention of the 3 acts and giving people something to do, as a cover for the cooking. And 2 ancient impresarios, one both very famous, one 82 then, and the other 79, were caught fighting their way after the first night through the orchestra pit onto the stage, saying, Fanny promised me that pudding. No, don't push her, boy, she promised it to me.
One final question. As a leading cookery expert, how do you regard the legendary Mrs. Beaton?
Another opportunity. A brilliant journalist, a woman who had the first publicist, great publicist as her husband, a woman who was grossly ill-used by her husband, who killed her with overwork. She couldn't fry an egg. She never cooked anything in her life. The only existing record of her ever having cooked anything was by her sister at the age of 8, who said she made a cake which turned out more of a biscuit and was a sad failure. And I had the full page of the, may I mention a newspaper here?
Yeah.
Of the Sunday Times, in which I went through the whole case under the name of the mystery of Mrs. Beaton, and I gave chapter and verse, including, now I'm quoting without record, I had no warning of this question, as you know. I think I said that if she had tested every recipe in the original Mrs. Beaton, she would have had to have cooked 31.5 hours a day, every day of her life from the time she was 2 3/4, something like that.
She died when she was 29.
Yes, are you suggesting that she was a fake, in fact, or...
She was a
No.
fake insofar as her cookery was concerned, but as far as being an editor of a publication which had a tremendous amount of good information, she was splendid.
I don't
But
think she ever professed to be a cook, did she?
well, I don't
Originally,
know.
or-
The claim is before
originally,
her
yes, I
now.
think
But you
it's
see, what
alleged
happened
now.
was that she and her husband had a magazine, and they had a competition in which the public sent in lots of recipes, and they put them all into this book, and she edited it brilliantly and worked herself into the grave at 29. But she never tested any of it. And we maintain that in the original Mrs. Beaton, you find clangers by good recipes, by dud recipes, by indifferent recipes, by sound ones, all mixed up together because she wasn't a cook and couldn't select them and didn't test them. You see, we're very, very hot on it. Nothing published is tested.
Must be tested.
So if anything goes wrong with the little dish that I'm making for you tonight, which as you know is an experiment,
Yes, I was wondering about
I
that.
shall tell you.
We've got James Robertson Justice on in a moment, so will you in fact have time to prepare the steak?
Well, just to heat it up, because that's the test. It's already made, you see. So now we heat it, and if it curdles, you have it curdled,
well,
and if it doesn't curdle, we have our answer.
You've got plenty of time. Fanny and Johnny Craddock, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, the Carry On series of films has a flavour all its own. Some people think it's a very gamey flavour. And another highly successful series is the Doctor one that started with Dirk Bogarde and James Robertson Justice. Now, Bogarde is no longer with the Doctor series, but James Robertson Justice soldiers on in film after film. Well, next week, he's the storyteller every day on Jack and Ori at 4:45. But before we meet Joan Bakewell talking to him in the Jack and Ori studio, here's a scene from his latest film, Doctor in Clover, in which he battles with a hypochondriac Arthur Haynes.
Oh! To the window, what appears to be the matter?
Well, it's up to you to find out, Doctor, and I mean, that's what I'm here for, so you can find out what's the matter with me.
What appears to be the trouble?
He complains of shooting pains up his back.
Yeah, and down my front, Doctor. I know what it is. It's me war wound. It's shrapnel on the move.
And how did that happen?
Well, I was bending down in the trenches like Pryor leading my men over the top when suddenly, bang, off goes this grenade, and a lump of shrapnel hits me right up the...
Rectum?
Well, it didn't do him any good.
Has he been x-rayed? I'll see those later. Let's have a look at your stomach.
Not on your Nelly. What, in front of all these students? I'm not a peep show, you know. I know me rights. I'm not a guinea pig for this hospital. I mean, you're the doctor that's dealing with my stomach, right? Right, everybody else, out.
Everybody will stay exactly where he is. You're under observation, Wendover. We're going to find out whether there's anything the matter with you or whether you're just malingering.
Do you hear that? Malingering? Malingering? Look, you'll be hearing from our solicitors in the morning, you will.
Is that hurt?
Yeah. Oh.
And that?
Oh. Just a minute. Hope your hands are clean.
Don't be impertinent. If you learn to control your tongue, I'll have you discharged from this hospital forthwith.
Is that a threat? Are you threatening me? That's nice, isn't it? I'm on my deathbed and I'm being threatened. I bet you wouldn't talk to me like that if I was royalty, if I had a crown round my head.
You are not royalty.
No, I'm not. I'm just a bit of cannon fodder what fought the king and country. And has now become a guinea pig for the medical profession. All right, then, if it's what you want everybody to see my stomach. Here, nurse. Come and have a look at this, and the rest of you can come and play noughts and crosses all over it. Come on.
James Robertson, Justice, does reading stories on Jack and Laurie require a different technique from acting?
I would be quite incapable of answering that. I put myself in the very, very capable hands of the director and try and carry out what she tells me to do.
Do you like reading to children?
I've thoroughly enjoyed this particular thing. I've never consciously, well, not for a very long time, have I actually read to a child, not since my own son was alive.
You started your life as a scientist. You were trained as a scientist. And then you left it alone. What made you stop becoming a scientist?
Well, I haven't stopped. I've still gone on. I spend a great deal of my time still working on my own pet particular subject, which is ornithology. But I got dragged into the film world, more or less by the scruff of my neck, by the son of a former colleague of mine, a man called Peter Ustinov, you may have heard of. And he more or less pulled me into the trade, and I've had a very good time in it.
Well, a reluctant actor, but nonetheless an actor. There must be something you like about it.
The emoluments are not exactly to be sneezed at.
Well, is the situation that, in fact, you act in films for the sake of financing your ornithology and your private interests
indeed.
In the country?
That is the full answer.
Now, it has been said of you that you're an actor who doesn't need to play a part, because the parts you're cast for, you very often resemble physically, and that, in fact, you play along with your own personality. Now, how much is that true?
Well, I would like to suggest that the answer is that if one behaves absolutely as one does in private life in front of the screen, it would come over far too vague. In other words, there must be a conscious effort to underplay a part, even if you are more or less doing it as you would do it yourself. It still must be brought down a bit, otherwise it'd be overpowering.
So that you're really underplaying your own personality?
I hope so.
Even in a character like Sir Lancelot Pratt, the Doctor of the Doctor series, the surgeon.
Lancelot Spratt,
Spratt.
if you don't mind. Well, yes, he was, of course, founded on somebody that I knew very well, who was also a great ornithologist and a great surgeon, and used to, he had a wonderful team in the operating theatre at the hospital, of which he was a very senior surgeon, and they were all quite used to him, but he had a nervous habit of using the most terrible language all the time he was operating. But everyone was quite used to this and knew that it meant nothing. It was just a nervous thing. And I know a lot of people remember him if I use the word snorker. And I won't mention his real name, but that will bring back memories to a great number of people.
Well, Snorker was a real person. How much of your own sort of attitudes went into him, though? Because he's a very angry person, and you've got a reputation for being angered by a great many things about life today. You angry?
Well, aren't you?
No, I don't think I'm probably as angry as you are. I've read of you railing against Christmas, against British institutions. And indeed, your anger took you into the political field. You became a Labour candidate. Was that out of anger?
An out of anger cut. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to think of Peter Sackville West and the end of that long and beautiful poem, The Land. Oh, Virgil. I can't quote it. And the last line is an out of anger cut. Tales of Home. It's gone. Most unfortunately. Not out of anger, except unless you say that all forms of political consciousness must be dictated to a certain extent by, I mean, do you get angry if you think of injustice? Well, the answer is yes, to a certain extent. How angry? Enough to get up and do something about it, or what? I mean, where are you? I mean, you get angry if you see a child being ill-treated. And again, it's a question of degree.
Well, presumably when you became a candidate, you did hope to do something about it. Do you still?
Well, I thought it was up to me to try and do something, because I'd had advantages which other people hadn't had, and I felt I ought to try and put something back again. I still am an unrepentant socialist, and I imagine that I always shall be.
But you're not politically active now.
Well, you can't be politically active if you're in this trade. At that time, I had a clause in a contract which allowed me to go on being, or anyhow, to become a political candidate and hopefully even a member. But, of course, we didn't get that far. But as a freelance nowadays, it's impossible. You see.
You've twice been rector of Edinburgh University. Now, what sort of responsibilities go with this sort of position?
More or less what you choose to make them. It's the same thing as your duties. Your official duties are minimal. The amount you put into it is a voluntary arrangement you make with yourself. You can do a great deal, or you can do nothing. It has been, unfortunately so in the past, that a great number of rectors, particularly distinguished prime ministers and so on, have been elected as rector, have turned up and delivered an inaugural and always a political address, and then haven't been seen at all until the end of their term when they've turned up for an honorary degree.
Well, to what extent do you think that you've been able to bring your own contribution to bear on the university?
And I think by taking a considerable interest in the... when I use the word welfare, I don't mean it in the sense of welfare state, but in the interests of the undergraduate body. You see, the rector is, in fact, second only to the chancellor, really the senior official of the university. And the rectorship is a fascinating and interesting thing because it derives from the structure of the universities, first of Bologna, modified by Paris, on which pattern the Scottish universities, the four senior Scottish universities were built, where there was no sort of senatus, and the student body chose its own professors and paid them what it could, and there was a representative of the student body who is in Scotland today the rector. And indeed, the rector in all continental universities has the most enchanting title because he's always addressed as Your Magnificence. Unfortunately, we haven't got this in Scotland.
It is sad.
Because I rather like the idea of being addressed as Magnificence, although I've only got a few more months to go in my second term.
Well, can we refer to your interest in ornithology now? Because this is your prime love, isn't it?
Yeah.
The love of the country and the love of falcons and falconry. Now, you're a founder member of the Seven Wildfowl Trust, I understand. Now, what's the purpose of that trust?
Well, one of the sad things about, like, the increasing prosperity and well-being of anyhow people in this country is, of course, there is less and less room, and this is going on all over the world. There are fewer and fewer what are known as wetlands, and the wetlands are places where the waterfowl of the world have had sanctuary, and the sanctuaries are becoming fewer and fewer, and the waterfowl of the world are dying out, or are under very, very considerable pressure. And the Wildfowl Trust was started in order to study the waterfowl of the world on a rather more organized scale than has hitherto been done, and to see what can be done for saving them. And we have had one very startling and great success, and that was the Hawaiian goose, or nene, which was down to less than 40 individuals in the world. And as a result of a project which we initiated and was carried out most brilliantly by Peter Scott and his splendid team, they're now up to over 300. And we've even sent a lot back to, not to Hawaii itself, but to one of the other islands, to, I don't think I'd better venture the pronunciation of any Hawaiian
So it's a matter of conservation and breeding.
Conservation and, and endeavouring to save where it's possible to save.
Now, falconry, what's the fascination of falconry? Because if I might say so, it seems slightly at odds with your interest in conserving animals to train falcons to hunt other birds, which is indeed what they do, isn't it?
Well, they do it in any case. This is only nature under command.
But you're aiding and abetting, in fact, of the sport.
Well, there's a lot to learn from it in one way. I wouldn't even bother to put that forward as an excuse in any possible way. There is, in fact, a great deal to be learned about it, but that's and from it, but that's neither here nor there. The fascination of a falcon's flight and the beauty of it, even if it is a murder with murderous intent, but then can you say that killing for your own food in a way that thousands of millions of generations of your ancestors have done is in any way worse than sitting down and eating a steak that somebody else has killed for you?
Probably not. Do you train the falcons yourself?
Yes.
And how long does it take?
To train a falcon to behave reasonably at the maximum 3 weeks, to then get it into training, that may take considerably longer.
Is falconry a coming sport? I mean, are there a lot of people who do it?
There never can be, for the simple reason that you need too much space, and well, the space isn't available.
James Robertson, Justice, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I expect you've noticed in the scene from the film the very welcome appearance of Noel Purcell. Also very welcome is Cy Chin. You ready for your snack?
Yes, I'm very hungry.
Johnny, is it ready?
I hope so. Yes, I've got it.
Well, this is the acid test. Is it...
Well, will it curdle or won't it? My theory is, before I see it, having reheated it in a double saucepan, that because while I was reheating it, I stirred the egg yolk and sugar and cream in, which is the finish of the fondue à la Neuchâtel, and didn't leave the egg yolk and cream in to recook, it won't have curdled. I'll now look.
Huh.
No, it hasn't, you see.
Oh, yeah.
So now all we do,
Precise.
I'm going to hold one right up so that you can see for yourself. You see
Yes.
that? Now there is your thick sauce, and it's perfectly smooth. That's as
Yes,
it should be.
yeah.
Then with a table napkin under your fork,
Yes.
Si, you
Go
know
on,
this
Si.
now, don't
Yeah,
you? You then convey as much as you can in one dollop
Yes.
into your mouth.
And
Round the edges, is it?
Yeah.
Well,
Don't
right
forget
in,
that you
that's
will-
it.
Oh, right in.
Mm.
Yeah.
You want a
There.
chaser with this.
Yes, that should, in theory, go down in one.
Like you have
Like this.
whiskey with haggis.
You're very good health,
And yours. Straight down?
as I
Sit
did.
up.
Glass empty. Then another piece straight on top of it.
Yes.
And in and pick up.
First of all, I haven't got to close the program, have I?
Have you not got to close the packet?
Oh, I certainly hope not.
So I shall now be able to write, if by any unlucky chance she hasn't seen this, and say it's okay as long as the egg goes there.